So, hello. Everyone, my name is Mark Mossberg.
And my name is Stefano Bonicatti.
Today, we're going to tell you about the osql project, which is the community-oriented fork of osquery. Stefano and myself are engineers at Trail of Bits, which is a small cybersecurity firm based in New York, and we fall under the engineering practice at Trail of Bits. We've been doing development on osquery core and on osql. So I just want to start with a quick poll. Who here has heard of the osql project? Okay, I've got some good representation. Great. Basically, what we want to do here today is kind of explain and clear up exactly what the osql project is. We expect a few of you may have heard of it before, but aren't exactly sure what it is or where it exactly fits into the osquery ecosystem. And so we're just here to kind of explain that today. We want to answer a few basic questions like what is osql and clear up the relationship between osql and osquery. And lastly, maybe most importantly, we want to discuss how is osql pronounced. And the answer is that we don't even know. And so I want to just take a poll right now. I think we have two main contenders, team osql. Anyone osql? We've got a few osql. Team osql. Okay, I think we are roughly more on the osql side, which is good because we've been preparing this presentation with that pronunciation in mind. So either way, that's what we're going to say for the rest of this talk. But okay, now that that's cleared up, we can get to the important stuff of those two previous questions: what is osql, and how is osql related to osquery? So to really understand this, we need to start at the beginning and go back in time a little bit. So as everyone knows, in the beginning, there was osquery, and it was really great. Facebook made it, and then open sourced it in 2014. Everyone was very excited about this because it's a very cool project. Trailbits was one of these people that noticed it. We thought it was really awesome, and not only did we think it was a very interesting technical project, but also we thought it had a lot of potential to really reshape the endpoint security space. And so we were very excited and wanted to get involved. So we reached out to Facebook, got in touch, and just to ask what we could do, how we could get involved with it. And one of our first major contributions to it was actually creating Windows support. And so we worked with Facebook and ported osquery to Windows and kind of completed the support for all the major operating systems, which was really exciting. After doing this, a few people on the right there noticed us and kind of reached out, and we were actually able to develop a business model based around osquery support and development services. Most of this work involved things like feature development and bug fixes, and so over the years we've been very active members of the community and contributors to the project. This is maybe 2016, 2017, 2018. We've done a number of contributions. A few examples are improving the integrations with AWS Kinesis and Google Santa. Almost all of the work we've done for our clients makes it into upstream. And so these are just two examples of many PRs and contributions over the years that we've done. And so time moves on a little bit. We're on our side doing work on behalf of our clients. Facebook is also busy on their end making improvements. And around late 2018, we have a bunch of work that's ready to go, basically, that we're ready to upstream. And so we submitted to Facebook. And around this time, they are very busy on their end with a lot of really big refactors and improvements to the build system. They're porting things to Book. They're changing the infrastructure inside at Facebook to make it easier for them to manage. And so it's quite a large effort. And so there was a temporary pause on open source contributions to allow them to focus on that. And so that goes well. Early 2019, they are able to complete these refactors and resume open source contributions. So of course, we're pretty excited about this. And just for context, this is wintertime, East Coast of the U.S. We're based in New York. It's a little bit cold, but it's all right. Our peers are waiting. It's all good. So seasons change. You know, our PRs are still sitting there. You know, it's getting a little bit warmer. PRs are getting kind of old, kind of smelly. It's not a really great situation. And so, as you might think, we got a little bit concerned because our PRs are just kind of sitting out there, getting kind of warm. Also, our clients notice this; they're not that excited either. And basically, that catches you up to early 2019 and sets the stage for where the osql project began.
So, as Mark said, this leads us to osql. If you look right now in the osql GitHub, you'll actually see two of them. Right now, we will talk about osql experimental, which is actually the original osql. So the original osql had the following goals. We wanted to restore public continuous integration and testing, which were things that were removed by Facebook refactor. We also wanted to restore support for developers' tools integration, building on older operating system, and building especially osquery extensions. These were, again, impacted by the port to the back build system. And so we wanted to restore support for, support by preserving CMake. Lastly, and most importantly, we wanted to be able to ship regular releases of osquery, which included community reviews PR. These are PR that are submitted upstream and have been approved by the community, but have not been reviewed and merged by Facebook. So with this project, we had one major anti-goal. And we were not interested in creating a hard fork of osquery and wanted to avoid this as much as possible. We really did not want to compete or divide the community. And we also definitely wanted to include all the work that Facebook continued to do. So in the best case, this would have introduced a significant maintenance burden in order to keep up. Instead of a hard forks, here was our first approach. We tried to implement what we called a soft fork. Basically, we used a module, a submodule, that simply pointed back to upstream, and specifically to its development branch called experimental. The repository was just a wrapper around upstream, which was providing CMake as the build system. I want to stress that the repo was almost 100% CMake, so there wasn't any C++ or anything. It was really just a build system wrapper, which we could then add back the public CI and have better integration with developer tools. Beyond the previous goals, one of our original goals was to be able to make regular releases with community PRs, while at the same time staying in sync with upstream. Here was the plan for how we were going to do that. This is the community history for upstream. Let's say we have 3 community PRs that have been submitted to upstream, but that have not been able to be reviewed or merged yet by Facebook. However, they have received a review by the community and have been deemed stable enough to go up in a release. So what we do is to create a branch of upstream and merge our community PRs into it. We make a build based off the tip of this branch and release it. This branch then ends. It's not merged back in anywhere. It's strictly a release branch. In the future, we might want to make a new release of osql, which includes new changes from upstream, and maybe a new community PR. Let's say none of our community PRs from last release have been merged yet. What we do again is to create a new release branch, and then port all the PRs from last time to the new branch. Again, this is because they weren't merged and into upstream. So this is a necessary maintenance burden in order to achieve both requirements we set. So one is being sync with upstream. The other is shipping our own our release with our own PR. Then let's say time moved on again, and a few of our PRs landed in upstream. Great news. Now, for our next release, we don't need to merge those in the release branch. They are already in upstream. We only need to merge any unmerged and any new ones. So the strategy let us achieve a balance between two conflicting interests. Again, the first one is that we want to be able to stay in sync with upstream and not diverge. The second is that we also want to ship our own custom releases with community PRs. So we were able to design a scheme that would allow us to do this. However, it does come at some amount of maintenance burden because the unmerged PR needs to be continually ported back onto upstream. As we mentioned before, our soft fork of osquery, the original SQL, wrapped around upstream experimental. This was the main development branch where all development had been happening for over 6 months. Later, though, the future of upstream experimental came into question. There were reports of stability issues, some deployment problems within Facebook. Because of this instability, the roadmap became unclear. We assumed experimental would be merged back at some point. We just didn't know when. Now, it became a question of if it would make it back to master. Furthermore, PR reviews slowed down again as Facebook had less and less time to do them. Because of this, our customer, shown on the right, also became a bit wary. Our osqul releases were going to be based on off of experimental, but they weren't confident in it. They were more confident in master, the last stable release. So we needed to take another step. And this came in the form of osqul. That is the one you see today. So the current osqul is a hard fork of upstream master. So we said we wanted to avoid this, but it didn't seem really possible. We couldn't soft fork it effectively because there was no development of master at all at that time and hadn't been for 6 months. Our main contribution with osqul has been restoring all the facilities needed for the community to continue osquery development. Namely, this has involved making a number of fixes to the build system and also deploying a public CI system. In contrast to the uncertain future of this experimental branch, this is a suitable place to continue development. The branch is deemed stable, and we are building off a clear start. There is a clear roadmap, or at the very least, a more clear roadmap than before. This model is an open forum, and community members are free to review PRs and help move the project along. This is a screenshot of the osqul README. It is passing for nearly all platforms. And this shows the number of PRs we are actually received so far.
So one thing that has become very apparent through this whole kind of journey is that the future of osquery is really community-oriented. And that's what osqul is really about. It's a place where community-based development of the osquery project can happen. And so, as many of you probably heard, there was a really exciting announcement a couple days ago by the Linux Foundation where they announced some initial plans to support osquery. We think this is really great and also very aligned with the work that we've been doing on making osqul. So given that there's this new emerging osquery that's more community-oriented and more open, we think osqul is a great foundation to build off of that. And so with all the build system fixes and the deployed CI, it's a great head start. And basically, we think we should use it going forward. Ultimately, what matters less is the current concrete form of osqul. And so maybe the name will change, maybe the repo will change, but really what's more important is kind of the ideas and intentions behind it. about openness and community. And so we think this is a great base for which we can build on further. So of course, there's a pretty long road ahead of us with a lot of challenges. A number of them being governance is one thing. We'll have to figure out how project direction is decided on. Also, development process, of course, how contributions will work, how releases are planned and such. Funding and support is a big one. Up until this point, Trail of Bits has been doing quite a lot, but that's not exactly a sustainable solution. And we'll need to figure out how to really grow an active and thriving community of users and developers interacting. So with that said, so the good news is actually that these are not unique problems to osquery, and they've been solved many times before by other projects, and so we're hoping that with help with the Linux Foundation, we'll be able to quickly find effective solutions for all of these. So with that said, we invite you all to get involved with osql, and in general, the discussion about the future of osquery. You can take a look at our GitHub to see what we've started on. There's a Slack channel. Of course, we'll be around later at this conference. After lunch, there's a panel, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it'll touch on some of this stuff. There's a workshop tomorrow. And so we're really looking forward to discussing this with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.